In this presentation, we will record a transaction related to a short-term investment maturing within QuickBooks Pro, QuickBooks Desktop. Here we are in our QuickBooks file. We currently have the Open Windows open. You can open the Open Windows by going to the View dropdown and selecting the Open Windows list. We're now going to open up our trusty trial balance by going to the Reports dropdown, going to the Accounting and Taxes, and then the Trial Balance. Within the trial balance, we'll set the dates to be from 01/01/20 to 12/31/20, January through December 2020. I'm going to then adjust the font size by going to Customize Reports up top in the left, Font and Numbers, and Change Font, changing font to the amount of number 11. Right there, and OK, and yes, and then OK. There's our trusty trial balance. We're now going to go to our Excel sheet and think about what our transaction will be. I'm going to go back to number 6 over here to see the description. Short-term investment sold. So it's not actually maturing. We're going to actually sell the short-term investment, and we sold it in order to use the proceeds to purchase computer and printer, and those resources used were restricted for the purchase of equipment. Okay, so we're only going to be recording the actual sales price now, and then we'll go into the purchase of the equipment in a future presentation, and we'll have to deal with the restriction being released given the fact that we used it for its given purpose. So first, we're just going to say that there's going to be a transaction for the sale of the investment. Would be similar if it had been an investment that matured. In other words, if we think about the asset that we currently have on the books, we have a short-term investment on the books. It's going to be an asset account here. Now, if it was a CD or something, or a savings account that had a timing on it, and then it matured at some future point, then it may mature and then roll over into our checking account, in which case we would increase cash and decrease the short-term investment. Or if it was stocks and bonds or something like that, and we had a short-term investment that we can pull money out of in order to use it as needed or when needed, such as for the purchase of equipment, then we can pull the money out of the short-term investment and put it into, and then use it as we need. That's what we're going to record here. Now, note there's no gain or loss. We're not going to be dealing with the gain or loss or tracking the gain or loss on it. We do have a course on, the investments and whatnot, the tracking or sales gains and losses on them. Right now, we're just going to basically record the cash is increasing, the short-term investment then going down. Obviously, if there was a gain or loss, the difference would be a gain or loss account. That would be typically an income statement type of account. All right, so cash is going to be going up. We're going to sell the investment. The other side is going to be going to short-term investments. Key point here, nothing is happening down below in the blue accounts on the income statement. Cash is going up, and the short-term investment, which we had on the books prior to this, is now going down. How are we going to record this within QuickBooks? Now, this is something, if I go back to the Home tab, we may not need an actual form to do this. It might be best to do this one in the register. So note there's, we're not going to go to, we don't need to create a sales receipt because there's not a donation. We could do that, but I think the easiest way to do this is go directly to the register. So what I'll do is I'll go to the banking up top. We're going to go to the use register, and then I want to make sure that I'm not on the clearing account, but on the actual checking account. So we want the checking account. I'm going to say OK, and then we're going to enter a transaction. So we're going to enter a transaction just into the register here. I'm going to say this is as of the 20th, let's say, and I'm not going to put anything in the name. I'm going to say that we have a deposit increasing the checking account by the amount of that $3,500. So we'll put the deposit in place, 3500. Then the other side is going to be going to the other account. That's going to be that short-term investment. You can find that with the drop down here, or you can just simply type in short-term investment and it should narrow down the drop down and pick up the one we need. So there is that now. Note we can't include a class, and I'd like to put it into a class, otherwise it'll be unclassified. To do that, you can go into the splits category. So that'll give you more detail to add more accounts if necessary and add classes if necessary. So I'm going to go into the split and I'm going to add the class, and the class is going to be fundraising. We're going to put it into fundraising. Let's go ahead and record it now. So I'm going to record. Notice it disappeared down here, and that's because I put the wrong date in. I put the current date as opposed to the current date of the problem. Not a problem if you're working in real time, but obviously in a practice problem it is. I'm going to scroll all the way to the top. There it is. We want to put it in there as of 01/17/20, January 17, 2020 in the practice problem. Then I'm going to say record, yes, and yes. Scrolling back down, then we see the deposit down here. We have the $3,500. Now let's close this back out and see if it shows up on the trial balance. I'm going to close this back out, close this out. We're in the trial balance. It should be in the checking account. Double clicking the checking account. And there is our deposit. It went in there as a deposit type. Note that if you double click on it, you'll actually show a deposit here, a deposit screen, even though we entered it into the register because this is the driving form. Closing this back out, closing this back out. And then the other side is went out of the short-term investment. So here's the short-term investment, double clicking on it. And there's a $3,500 decrease deposit, double clicking it. There's our deposit screen. Closing this back out, closing this back out.